something until like 8 hours ago.
to it's a pretty fun training. There's always a lot of really cool people um that show up, and then we have a lot of people watch on replays because they travel and many of them are entrepreneurs, so sometimes they kind of catch this on the replay. So I will, but yeah, there's there might be 5, there might be 20 people that kind of pop in and out who will just kind of play it by ear, but it's very laid back. We kind of let it be an open forum. If you need to I'll have it so you can share the screen if you need to do anything too, but we'll just rock it from there. But yeah, I'll let you take the wheel. People are popping in right now, so we'll get this going. But any questions you have for me?
I don't think so. So basically, Ray just kind of said I will do my little training, kind of what I have for them. And then are you gonna like intro me or anything, or do you want me to like how do
Oh
you do
yeah,
that?
I will. Oh, I got an intro for you. No, totally. So I'll do that. Let me get this guy rolling.
And anything I should know about like the group?
So our group is entrepreneurs. Some of them are like going up to their first 6, and then if you have a few that are 7-figure entrepreneurs that watch the replays usually. But most of the people that are on here are newer entrepreneurs, trying to get to their first like 10 and 15K months with what they're
Okay.
building, and they're passionate about the things that they've built. Some of them are TEDx speakers, health and wellness entrepreneurs are a few of them too, and then we've got a lot of coaches and stuff like that too. So
Okay.
kind of across the board on a lot of different people.
Cool.
Cool, cool, awesome.
Love it. And
Yes,
you're good if I like ask them questions and stuff too, right? Like,
of course, absolutely,
cool.
absolutely. Cool. All righty. We got Allie in there. Let's see. We got Susan joining. Eva. Susan. Boom, boom, boom. You're going to recognize a few of these faces. That'll be awesome.
Really? Cool.
Totally. All righty. Hi, Susan. It's okay. You're on mute, but doesn't matter.
Story of my life, man.
Oh my gosh. I love it. And I think we've got For His Glory CEO Ali Spitzbergen is in the room as well.
Woo-hoo.
She's popping in. Guys, we have a treat for you today from the Flourish Medical and Wellness corner of the world up there. I think, Jackie, you'll have to remind me. I wanted to say you guys were in Minnesota, but I don't totally remember. It's not that. Is
You
it
got it. Yes.
Minnesota? Well, I have got to watch Jackie and then her husband Tad from a distance at Flourish, and these guys have built an incredible business, and it is a husband and wife team, which we love, but it is also a thriving business, and she's done it off of not just sheer grit, but off of the balance of what you guys can do when you build something kingdom first and build it with somebody that you love, which is probably the easiest thing ever, right? I'm sure you guys will hear a little bit about that. But what we wanted to cover for you guys today, because we know a lot of you guys and those that are watching on the replay, a lot of you guys are going to be building really successful businesses. That is the idea. But we want you guys to do that without sacrificing. And what Jackie's going to go through today, there's a lot of letters behind your name. That is amazing. But I wanted to just formally introduce Jackie because she is a force to be reckoned with. And we're super, super blessed to have you with us today, Jackie. I'm going to turn the reins over to you, but thank you for being with us and just take it away. And if there's anything you guys, we have a smaller, tight knit group. I know people kind of pop in and out. Looks like Allie is going on a road trip. So be safe.
Yes, we're going off the grid to our ranch house. So Jackie, I did not want to miss you though, girlie. If I fly off, it's just for the lack of cell signal, but so excited you're here.
Totally.
That's
So,
awesome. Sounds amazing.
and what we'll do too, Jackie, we can do some interactive stuff with you, but roll with it. And then if there's stuff that you guys want, just raise your hand or pop it into the comments. But Jackie, I'll let you take it away. And thanks for being here, my friend.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. So, first of all, just so you guys know kind of who I am, how I roll, is that like anything I do, whether it's with my patients, whether it's speaking, whatever it is, my priority is that I'm able to give and actually create value in your life. So, this is not something where I want you to be quiet, be shy, like speak up if you have questions, ask, like let's actually make this time worth it because time is one of the most valuable things that we have. So, I am a nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse practitioner for about 15 years and worked in the traditional setting for about 10 of those 15 years when God literally plucked me out of a church service and was like, hey, I have a different plan for you. And never dreamt of being a business owner, never knew how to run a business, didn't have any family members who ran a business. I'm not even very good at math, to be honest with you, which is tough when you run a business. But God has been good. And so I'm going to share with you guys kind of the steps that I have found to be really important to building a successful business. And honestly, a lot of the things, when you talk about like building a business without sacrificing your well being, unfortunately, I think you have to learn the hard way. So you get to learn from me on what not to do in that regard. So really quick, if you, Allie, I know you a little bit, I know a little bit about you. Susan, tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, like either unmuting or putting it in the chats, like what do you do? What is your business? How come you joined today?
So I have been working with Sammy, gosh, almost a year, maybe not quite that long, half a year. I can't keep track. Anyway, I left a career of over 2 decades, so now I work with women, generally 50 years and older, who are getting ready to exit their careers because I thought I had a plan and I fell flat on my face. And so I did a lot of research. There's over 20 million women getting ready to leave the workforce within the next 5 years. And that is staggering. And people talk to them about financial stuff, but not about everything else, their identity, their community, their purpose, all of that. So that's what I do now. I speak, I coach. Um, that's my concentration. And I have a podcast, thanks to Sammy, called Done
Love it.
Pretending.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you for being here. So don't be shy. Type in the chats or flat, like wave your hand or something if you have any questions. So again, we're going to talk about building a successful business without sacrificing well-being. And I kind of broke this down into 5 different steps, and each of them kind of encompass a little different thing. So the first thing is really, this is the thing that gets lost all the time. And this is why I wanted to start with this. You have to build yourself before you build your business. What I mean by that is creating the habits. If you're going into business, but you don't have a solid foundation of habits, and when I say habits, I'm talking about how you're taking care of yourself, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. Like if you don't have a solid habit foundation, it's going to be really, really hard to add that in once you've kind of gotten into the business flow because there's so many more things vying for your time that these are the first to go. These are the first things that get put to the wayside. So really, if you're just starting in business, or even if you've been in it for a while, but you know your habits aren't there, you have to get those in check. So things like protecting your energy. Your energy is one of your greatest assets. If you do not have the energy to give and to do your best in how you show up, your business will reflect that. So some of my non-negotiables and the things that I not only coach other people in business, but really our patients, because we have a lot of business owners that we see as patients as well. But kind of the keys of foundational health: your sleep, your movement, nutrition, your prayer or reflection time, whatever that looks like for you. Boundaries are also a really important one to consider there when you think about habits. And then something, again, with my background in health, this would make sense, but knowing your labs. We actually were at a conference this past week, and one of the speakers was talking about how you're checking your labs, like your actual lab work, is like checking your bank account. Okay. So if you would never go months or years without checking your bank account, right? Like that's just silly. We would not do that, especially as business owners. But so many people walk around afraid of knowing their labs or afraid of getting those things checked out. And that's the internal bank account for your health. So it's so important, at least once a year, that you have somebody in your corner that can advocate for you, that is going to check the things that need to be checked, give you good advice so that you can make sure that the internal things are working the way they're supposed to as well. So if you break down, if your habits aren't in place, so when I talk sleep, we're thinking at least a minimum 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep is ideal. Now, a quick little side note, just from the medical perspective, our bodies as adults, our melatonin release is going to be typically around that 9 to 10 p.m. range. So if we're pushing through that time and we're not going to bed until 11 or 12 because we're up late working on stuff, you're missing your body's natural melatonin surge, which makes it a lot harder for you to get to sleep. The other thing that a lot of people don't understand when we talk about sleep is that cortisol and blood sugar are connected. So if your sugar is high, your cortisol is high. If your sugar and cortisol are high, your body cannot make melatonin. Okay, so cortisol and insulin and melatonin, those are all what we call circadian hormones. So as the sun rises, our cortisol goes up, our insulin's nice and sensitive. As the sun goes down, we become more insulin resistant, and then we start to see melatonin kick in the evening hours. But if our body is working on processing sugars or a beverage or food or whatever that is, it can't make melatonin. Okay. So really giving yourself that boundary of at least 2 to 3 hours before bed of nothing to eat or drink other than water is super important to have healthy sleep. As women, sleep can be really disrupted when we get into our menopausal transition as well. So that's also something to make sure you're aware of. If you haven't found a good hormone doctor to help you through perimenopause and menopause, it is key. It is much more difficult to do that on your own. And so there are some really important tools that you can really arm yourself with to help with sleep, because sleep is one of the big things that starts to give after perimenopause and menopause. Movement is key, and movement's going to change. Okay, so when you are in your premenopausal phase, like you can do the HIIT and you can do the intervals and you can do the high intensity training, and all of those things are great hormetic stressors. But as we age, and maybe we have more stress because we're business owners or we're starting a new business, or now we have more stress because we're going through perimenopause, that's added hormetic stress on your body, which means you have to change the way your movement, the type of movement that you're doing, so that we're not overstressing the body. We also will lose muscle mass as we age. So that is where weightlifting at least 4 to 5 times a week is key for muscle building, because it's so much harder to build muscle as we age. So when it comes to movement, when you go from kind of premenopause into our perimenopause and menopause years, we're going to transition away from high intensity, like interval training and running and HIIT workouts. We're going to transition away from that into more things like walking, weightlifting, Pilates, more of those types of movements. And then prayer and reflection. I'm a huge advocate of this. This is the way I start my day every single day. And if I am not in the Word, if I am not talking with God, if I'm not in worship music, the rest of my day changes. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like if it starts with that, it sets up the day completely differently. So that's always the first and non-negotiable. Don't even look at your phone until you've had at least 30 to 60 minutes to really get into that prayer and reflection, or whatever that is for you. And then boundaries. This is huge. This could be boundaries with maybe some relationships that do not serve you well any longer. Maybe it's boundaries around kids' activities and what you're volunteering for. When you are a business owner, again, your time becomes so much more valuable, and there's a price tag with that. So if we're being the super mom and we're doing all the volunteering, right, that's then taking away time from us being able to build our business, that comes at a cost. So we just have to make sure that we're keeping good boundaries with our relationships, with the different asks that we put on ourselves, and again, allowing time for those solid foundational nutritional habits, medical habits as well. When we talk about nutrition, I mean, this is all over the board, but it's pretty well broadcasted right now is how important protein is. One of the things that you don't hear about a lot is the order of eating. So it's just as important in the order that you're eating as it is what you're eating. Okay. So there are studies looking at the same people eating the same exact meals in a different order. And when we do not start with protein, our blood sugars are higher. So if we're having fruit, if we're having our carbs, if we're having those things first, it's actually going to spike blood sugar higher than if we're actually starting with protein. So it's a very simple thing that a lot of people aren't ever told, but it makes a big difference on your health when we talk about nutrition. And then, of course, whole foods, right? I've heard this recently and I like it. It's a good way to remember, when we talk about whole foods, things from nature, if you can pick it, pluck it, it comes from a mother, it has a mother, or you can shoot it, you should eat it. If it doesn't do any of those things, then you probably shouldn't. So just a good way to kind of check in on what's your nutrition like. So again, you are the engine of your business. If you don't take care of yourself, if you break down, your business will as well. So you have to steward yourself first so that you can serve others. The other important thing, I do think there is this, I'm just going to be real straightforward and honest with you guys right now because I see it and I hear about it from my patients. Being a product of your product. There were times when I worked in the traditional medical world, and when you have a practitioner who is obese, severely obese, telling you about your cholesterol and your blood sugar, right? It makes you question things. And so remember, you are going to be the representation of your business. And so how you present yourself, how you come across, it matters. That first impression matters. And a lot of times that first impression happens before any words ever leave your lips. So something to keep in mind to make sure you're stewarding your body, stewarding yourself first so you can serve others. All right, so that's step one. We good with step one?
So when you say step one, I want to make sure at a high level we've got sleep, movement, and labs. And was there anything else in that too, Jackie?
Yeah. Do you want me to just send you my outline?
Oh my gosh, we'd love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll send that to you.
Totally. I mean, the labs is such a crucial thing, guys. When I didn't know my labs, I'm embarrassed to say, but my testosterone, I was basically a lady boy. I had no idea why I had no libido. I had no idea. I had no idea why I couldn't, like Ray would say something simple like, "Hey, why did you make the eggs that way?" And I would fly off the handle. I was like,
Yeah.
"What, you don't think I can make eggs? You think I'm not a good provider? Is what's happening?" And I did not know. And I want to say, if you haven't had your labs checked, and I'm sure Jackie will have some great resources for that, but I love that was part of the trifecta. That's such a crucial thing, Jackie. So thank you for that reminder. But yeah, keep rocking it. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So the important thing about that too is that, I tend to see that most business owners are go-getters. Like, we're going to get things done. We don't tend to complain, right? Like, we're just going to do it. And the problem is if you're forcing it, but like internally, your body is lacking the tools and the things that it needs to actually function optimally, it's just way harder. So you're trying to fight through these things. And no matter how hard you fight, you can't make the progress because you don't have the tools. Like, the things aren't right in your body. So same thing with Tad. That was something where it's crazy. Did you know that a symptom of low testosterone in men is not listening to their wives? I say that out of love, but here's what was happening is that, like, I would be like, dude, I told you this, and we had this conversation, and this happened for a long time until we actually got ourselves in check and like figured out some things that were going on. And that was one of the first symptoms and things that I saw for him that went away when we were optimizing his health. It was like, oh, the things that I said, it wasn't that he just wasn't listening. It's that literally there were things happening in his body that didn't allow him to hear and remember the conversations we were having. So it's huge. Again, you can kind of try to force your way through it, but there are some things you just won't be able to do that with if things aren't right inside.
Is that listen to your wife, or is that just listening to things in general and not remembering it? Or is that
I mean, it's all across the board, but the wife is funnier.
wow, it's so good to know. I got a message very real quick.
Okay, step 2. So I have 5 steps for you guys. So step 2, getting clear on your mission and values is so important because there's going to be hard times. There's going to be questions. There's going to be times where you question everything. There's going to be times when you want to throw in the towel. And when you know what your mission and your values are, that is the litmus test. If you're stuck, if you're not sure, if you're feeling conflicted, always go back to what your mission and your values are. So ask yourself, why does this business exist? Why did I create it in the first place? Who am I being called to serve? And is this decision that I'm making actually doing that? Is it serving the people I'm called to serve? And then what values will never be compromised. I think this is important. I did a talk last week, and it was about, we grew from 0 patients when I started the practice in 2021 to almost 5,000 patients less than 5 years later. And yeah, so we had literally, I was the only practitioner. Now we have 7. So it is, and honestly, all glory goes to God. But that is one of the things that I learned is like, there's times when you have to change your processes and be willing to tweak things to meet patients where they are or meet your clients where they are. Not everyone's going to be able to fit into your box. So sometimes you have to be able to tweak and adjust and make things work for people, but not if it compromises your mission and your values. And so that's why it's so important to understand those. What are your mission? What are your values, so that we're not getting off track, because that can easily happen. So again, when decisions become difficult, your mission and your values should always be your filter. It should always run through that. It's also really important that if you have a team, your team can repeat those out. Like, they know the values, they know the mission. And this can be really helpful when there is conflict in the team, because instead of it being an attack, right, on this person or this person, if maybe things aren't going the way they should, it can be a simple, hey, does this line up with our mission? Does this line up with our values? So it's not about the person, it's about the values. And if the actions that are happening aren't lining up with the values, again, it's not a personal attack. We just need to tweak things and make sure that we're in alignment. So clarity is always going to reduce that decision fatigue, and it keeps you from chasing every opportunity. I don't know if you've seen this, but before I started the clinic, I was actually working with a chiropractor, and he had shiny object syndrome. Like, I was like, what is happening? And I didn't last there very long. I think it was like 9 or 12 months. But it was like always the new shiny thing. It was like, oh, we're going to do this. Oh, no, we're going to do this. Oh, this is available. Let's do this. And I was like, okay, like, again, I still didn't even know I was going to have a business at that time, but I learned a lot of what not to do from that. Okay, you have to get really, really good at what you're good at and be the expert in that, than trying to be good at a lot of things. Be the expert at your 1 or 2 things, and the rest is noise. Okay, keep refining your skills in that specific area. So if you're just chasing every opportunity, you're never going to build. You're never going to become the person who other people are looking up to for knowledge, and who trust you, because like, you're always doing something new. So you're not going to be an expert in anything if you're trying to do all the things. Not every good opportunity is your assignment. So remember that. What is your assignment? What are your missions? What are your values? Do they align? All right. Step 3, systems. So this is a big one when it comes to, building a successful business without sacrificing your well-being. And yes, AI for sure. This is funny. Sammy can attest to this. I'm having the hardest time actually scheduling on Sammy's calendar because I haven't gotten all my systems in place, and there's too much of me that's being needed and not enough of me that has time to even schedule a call with Sammy, if we're being honest. So this is something where I have learned from doing it the wrong way, and I want you guys to not do it the wrong way. So we have to build systems. Burnout absolutely will happen if everything depends on you. Okay. You have to, and do this from the beginning. Like I'm at the point now, well, let's be honest. When I started this, I was like, I don't know. I mean, maybe this will work. I didn't really have any plans or goals or whatever. I'm just like, all right, God, let's do it. You told me to do it. Let's do it. And so I didn't do any of this. I didn't write any SOPs, any operations. Like I didn't do it. I just started doing the things and learning the things. And now 5 years later, we have this 15 employees and we have a podcast and we have socials and we have marketing newsletters and we have all the things, but nothing has been documented on how we've gotten there. And so now we're looking at, okay, well, how do we grow? Do we want to have more clinics? Like what are our next steps? And I'm going to have to start over. I'm going to have to write all the things down now. So do not do what I did, even if it feels silly, like write all the things down from the beginning. Yes, they're probably going to change. You're going to have to tweak them. You're going to figure out a better way. That's fine. It's a lot better to do it that way than to be where I am 5 years later and be like, wow, I have a mountain of work to do because I didn't do it the right way to begin with.
And to give you some credit too, Jackie, I mean, yes, you're being a little hard on yourself, but most people didn't scrap their way to the sizable success that you guys have had without systems in your head. And that's where I think you've really taken care of yourself. So if you look at the first things, when the fact that you put in your values, you took care of yourself and your habits, it got her to where she's at in a way that allowed her to stay healthy while her brain is holding all of that context, holding all those processes and holding all of the people and what they're doing. And yes, she knows where, and that's the mark of an incredible leader is when they're like, yes, this is my fallacy and we are going to fix it. But I did want to acknowledge you for taking care of the first pillars, because if you didn't do that, everything else would have crumbled. So yes.
Thanks, Sammy. You're right. We got it. Yes. Okay. So for systems, communication. So this is a big one, creating systems around communication, whether that's communication with your team, whether that's communication with your clients, whatever you can do to streamline that communication, but also remembering that when it comes to clients and who we're serving, like communication is key. They want to be followed up with. They want to be checked in on. People don't drift away. Clients don't drift away because they stopped caring. They drift away because they stopped feeling cared for. And communication is a really big piece of that. So whether it's setting up that, we have a text line and you have to go through a whole bunch of hoops to make that happen on the business side of things. But texting, emailing, patient portal, like there's so many different ways that they're able to connect with us to keep that communication open. So creating those systems that will make it easy for you, streamlined for you, and then also for your team as well. Systems around operations. So I mentioned this, I didn't put everything down on paper where everything's written out and we can just say, okay, here, plug and play, here's the next clinic. But when it comes to problem solving and operations, like that's my bread and butter. I love it. I love to problem solve and figure out how do we take this problem and streamline it so that it's good for everyone. Every problem that you face is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get better. It's an opportunity for the people you're serving to be served better. There's always an opportunity in any sort of problem. And so that's how I like to look at the problems and then figure out a solution that is a win-win for every single person involved, for you, for your clients, and for your team. There's always a way. And then just making sure you're putting those systems in place as you're problem solving those things. Patient-client experience, I touched on this a little bit, but they want to be communicated with. They want to be checked in on. They want to be celebrated, okay? So 0 patients to almost 5,000 patients, we have not had a single paid ad or a single paid advertising, nothing. All of our patients have been from referrals, word of mouth, maybe just finding us on Google or social media, but the majority are word of mouth. And so for that to happen, you have to have a couple of things. You have to have incredible results and incredible patient service, client service. So it's really good to get people results. But if they get results, but they don't feel cared for, or they get results and they don't feel important, or they get results and they just feel like another number, they can probably find somebody else to help them find results and get results. So it's just as much about the experience, the client experience, as it is about the results. Trust is huge. When we talk about patient and client experience, it all starts with trust. The transaction happens by building trust, okay? And that happens by opening your mouth and by listening. When I talk, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just said that's so good. I was like,
Oh.
It's so good.
Yeah, so when I think of communication, I think the most important part of communicating is listening. It's much less to do with what you say and much more to do with how you listen. And honestly, a lot of my patient visits, it's the same thing. If I can just get my patients talking and explaining to me what they're going through, most of the time I just need to listen and I can tell them what the issue is and what direction we need to go. And there's very little talking that actually has to come from me. So creating that trust, celebrating the wins, not letting them fall away, making them feel important, creating incredible results with an incredible experience is how you get patients or clients to come back, and it's how you get them to tell their friends and family to come see you as well. All right, hiring and training. This is important. And again, I had no idea where our team was going to grow to. And so again, the first couple, I learned a lot at the beginning of hiring and training, a lot of what not to do. But again, sometimes you have to learn what not to do to understand what to do. And now we have amazing AI tools, right? Like it can help you create some incredible interview questions and kind of like red flags, things to look at. So use that tool. I really like to give situational questions like, hey, if this was going on, how would you handle it? If you had a disagreement with leadership, what is your approach? Things like that to really help see how quickly they can think on their feet. And I think it gives you a good idea of the person behind what they're saying. You can say anything. I think interviews can be interesting because it's easy to show up and say the right things. We also will sometimes, if we're hiring for a big, important position, we'll do a shadow day. So maybe they come in for 2 or 3 hours and kind of shadow us, really get to know what are we doing, what does this role involve. That has been super helpful for us. And then streamlining those systems for sure. We will use large platforms like Indeed, and it can just go crazy. And so you have to set up your systems on the back end so that you're not even getting the applicants that just don't match, they're not even coming into your inbox. That saves a lot of time. Training, this one is huge for having the right systems in place. And this one's really important for having those standard operating procedures. Because if we go back to a previous step where we talked about you being able to free up your time, you can't be doing all the training. Okay, you have to have other team members who can help with the training process, and having those standard operating procedures in place where it's very detailed and written out is going to help others take the training load off of you, but you still know that it's being done the right way. All right, so with systems, we're really working toward those processes, the systems, and having the right people on our team. And that ultimately is what creates more freedom for the business owner. So the goal isn't to be needed by everyone. This is something that, again, I've learned probably in the last 6 to 9 months of you'll get to a point where you literally just can't. Like there is not enough of you to go around. And so writing down, like, what do you do every day? What are your tasks? What are all the things that you take care of? And figuring out where you can delegate those is so helpful. So just start it now, because sometimes you'll have like one-off things like accounting or insurance, like whatever it is that like only come up once a year, but still having that list is really important because it adds up. And so one of the things that I've learned is when you have a team, you may get to a point where you have to create boundaries. So that might look like a list of, hey, here are the things that you bring to me. These are the only things you bring to me. Everything else, if it's not in one of these few things, goes to your office manager or your executive assistant or whoever that might be on your team. Everything else goes to them. And then that person is trained really well to handle most of it and only talk to you about the things that you actually need to give input on. The other thing that can be really helpful is scheduling time when those people need you. So for my staff and my team, now what they do, they know, hey, if you have a patient question that we need to do a case review on, lunch, like we can talk about this over lunch. That's my dedicated time for you. My check-in time with my office manager, that's at the end of the day. I have 30 minutes, end of every day. What do we need to check in on? Are we good? Go from there. And then really cutting back on emails, because before I did that, all day, every day, people were coming to my office, asking me questions, sending me emails. And your brain that is not able to switch in and out of the different sides, your left brain and your right brain very quickly. I think it takes like 23 minutes or something crazy. And so if you're trying to be creative and think about your marketing plan and strategy, and then you have a left brain task come in, you're interrupted, like your brain doesn't just switch back and forth like that. So creating that dedicated time, that dedicated space of when you're available and open for those questions, so the team still knows that they're important, they feel heard, but it actually frees you up to be much more efficient in that time.
The context shifting.
Okay.
Yeah. The context shifting is I think what we call it in our camp. And when you are context shifting, it is just brutal for your left and right brain. You just cannot get back into flow. It's so tough.
Yes. Yep. So the goal isn't to be needed for everything. It's to build something that functions well because of those systems that you have created. So a business that can't function without you isn't freedom. It's just another job. Okay.
Ooh, writer downer. That's right.
All right, step 4, protecting your margin. So I like this one, and I think it sounds a little bit different than maybe what you think I'm going to speak about here. So protecting your margin, think of it like busyness is not the same as productivity. Okay, so we as business owners tend to take on a lot, do a lot of things that keep us busy, but they're not actually productive. Are they actually providing influence or income in our business? So when I think of scheduling margins, it's literally scheduling margins in your day for your family, for rest, for strategic thinking, for personal growth. How are you going to grow if you're not actually being fed and poured into and learning how to grow? Vacations and that kind of recovery time. That's when I think about scheduling margin. That's what I'm referring to. You have to schedule it on the calendar, or it doesn't happen, because there will always be another task. There will always be more busyness that we can occupy our time with that's not actually productive. Okay. Time blocking, we kind of touched on this with the last one, but that's really where it's so important. Like, what days of the week, what morning are you going to spend in just your creative time? What days or what morning or afternoon are you going to spend analyzing the numbers and the business and the growth? Those are the things that you really have to schedule to create that margin for, so that they don't get pushed off and pushed to the side. Another way to protect your margin is learning to say no. Okay, saying no is huge. And I think as a newer business owner, that one's harder, because we think we have to do all the things and get out there and say yes to all the things. And so, to some extent, that's not a bad thing when you're starting out. But the bigger you are and the more you're growing, you're going to get to a point where it's just not worth it. Like, it's not worth your time. People know who you are. You don't need to be saying yes to all the things. Delegating, this is huge. And this is kind of what I was talking about with having that one person kind of below you that you trust, that you know can do a good job. It's really important to pour into those people so that you can say, all right, I'm at a point where I can't take any more on. I have to take stuff off. So everything goes there, and only these things actually need me. Okay. That's so, so important. Protecting your calendar and overcommitting. So stop overcommitting. Again, there's so many areas of life that we do this in, and then that really goes in line with protecting your calendar for what will add value to your life and to your business. It's not always just about the money, but what's going to add value to your life as well as your business. So rest isn't a reward after success. It's a requirement for sustainable success. You cannot pour from an empty cup and expect excellence. It won't happen. The quality of your leadership is what dictates how good your business is. So if you're pouring from an empty cup, a half empty cup, you're going to get a half business.
It's a good timer. Half business, half cup.
All right. And then step 5. So define success holistically. A thriving business means nothing, means very, very little if you lose yourself in the process. Okay. So this comes back to what we talked about mission and values, and who are you serving and why are you serving it, and keeping those habits in place. So if you lose yourself, none of that matters, right? If you aren't sleeping, you're sick, you're adrenally fatigued, it's not, first of all, you're not able to serve the people well that you're supposed to serve. You're not going to show up and lead well the people that are on your team. And I have seen it way too often in the medical setting where people actually work themselves sick. It's just not, it's not worth it. It's not gonna get you where you want to be. So success should look like healthy relationships, physical and mental health, spiritual peace, time freedom, meaningful impact, and of course, a growing revenue stream. That would be good. So build a business that serves your life, not a life that is enslaved to your business.
I love all of this. I think I might have put a couple things out of order, but the bullet points are there. Thank you for sending over the presentation part of what you've got so far. If you have more, let me know. But I'm thinking that this is such gold. There's so many, I have so many things written down. This is, I think, for knowing you, Jackie, I see how you put all the pieces together, even despite kind of some of the stuff that you'd admitted to not having together. But I love this. Susan, what was one of your big takeaways from some of those first
one? No, Jackie, this was gold. And I'll be honest, I've built other businesses before, and some of this, it's like, oh yeah, oh yeah. But it's so important to be reminded of it. I really, building yourself first, I think really is key. I really like that you start with that, because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we can't move on. And then also getting clear on your mission and your purpose. It is something that I go back to a lot, learning to say no by setting those boundaries. That has been a lesson for me the last 6 months, because I wanted to either help everybody or build other people up as I was building up. But what it was really doing was taking away from my time to work on my business and to get focused.
Yeah.
So those were a couple of I have a notebook. I am horrible at systems. I came from an admin career where systems, SOPs were everything. But building my own business again, because it's just me for right now, I realized, I wrote down, build a systems book. And because you said something that struck a chord to me, which was, even if it's something like insurance that you do once a year, there are so many of those little things that then derail my time, because it takes me another 30 minutes to figure out how to get into it and all of that. So I love that. No,
Yeah.
all great.
Awesome. I'm so happy that you had some key takeaways. That's awesome. I think too, even just building some systems in like your email, right? And I'm sure kind of Sammy and Ray helped you with that stuff, but that's huge for me. Like I have even like the bookmarks bar on your browser, you can have folders. So I have folders like,
what?
Yeah, I have folders on my bookmarks bar so that it's, yeah. I mean, you probably know that, but so that's really helpful for me, because my bookmarks bar kept getting really long and I can't find it anywhere. So that now I have folders.
Create a new tab group. Oh my God.
Yeah. So those things where it's like, what is that page? How do I log in? Like, that's where it is.
Wow.
There you go. That was worth the whole talk.
That happens every time I get on a Zoom with Sammy. It's like, what? I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah.
That's why we bring the
and Sammy, I have to tell you that because of people like Jackie and working with you, I was on a call with someone today, and I said, well, you've done this with Claude, right? You've built an advisory board and done this. And she's like, what? I sound so smart.
You are smart, my friend. That's so great. Jackie, with one of the things, kind of, especially with Flourish Medical, are you allowed to, do you guys take patients out of the state, or are you guys brick and mortar just to Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, we do. We have some select virtual patients. Our schedules, even with 7 providers, are like 2 to 3 months out. So we're a bit selective with that, just because honestly, there's not enough of us to go around. So
got it. The only reason I ask is I want to drop Flourish Medical in there so you guys can see, and your podcast is amazing. So we want to make sure you guys watch that too. It's with her and her husband. Awesome podcast. Allie, you'll love it. It's another husband and wife duo doing their podcast. What would be one of the things that you would like, where would you like people to connect with you, Jackie, for following more on what you're doing and things like that? I'll put the podcast and the blog in here right now, but anywhere else you'd like for them to connect with you? And
podcast is great. You can throw my social page on there if they want more. Like, I mean, I talk some medical stuff, but on like our Flourish social page, I think it's just Flourish Medical Wellness. And then my Instagram is JKTEWES. But we also have an online store. So if you guys have, it's just a place where we have kind of curated our favorite products that actually work in the holistic space and actually get people better. that's a really great resource for people as well.
Amazing. And then is that for you guys online? Is that, you said one of the things is to check your labs. Oh, Allie has a question too. Allie, why don't you ask your question first? Because I know you're driving. I'd love to hear what you do, and then I'll ask mine. Oh, did you freeze? Did we lose her? Oh,
We may have lost her.
Okay, when you get back into service. So when it comes to the checking labs and stuff like that, can we check labs through you, or do you have some suggestions on your favorite places to go for labs? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we can definitely set that up and help you work that LabCorp. It's funny because if you go through the traditional route of medicine, then everything gets run through insurance. And so they end up dictating what we can and can't order, or you have to pay out of pocket for it. So, for example, a CBC with DIF is going to tell me about your parasite markers, mold toxicity, heavy metal toxicity, environmental toxins, if we have anemia, like all these things. And when we bypass insurance, it's $10. Okay. So they're very, very affordable. So I would encourage you to look for, like, if you want someone local, look for somebody in the kind of foundational health space. And honestly, avoiding insurance, like cash pay, is probably going to end up saving you money a lot of times if you're working with the right people who have the right values. So I'm not a huge fan. There's like Function Health, and there's some other kind of online labs that you can get ordered. They're good tests, but if you don't know how to interpret them, then it kind of defeats the point. So it's not just about the lab; it's about having somebody who knows how to interpret them and what they mean for that person.
Yeah, I got my Function Health one, and then I just threw it through Claude and almost gave myself an aneurysm. I was like, "Oh, I'm dying." And she's like, "It's not that bad. It's
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah, you got to be careful." So that's great. Well, thank you, Jackie. I love all this stuff. I haven't written down this much stuff in a call in a hot minute, but I loved the framework on the 5 steps that you really have done to build this. And yeah, this is why we bring these people on, Susan. Everyone approaches things in such a different way, but I think with what Jackie and Tad have put together is so fundamental to set yourself up thinking about not burning out, building with sustainability, and building without sacrificing well-being is such a key tenet. This is why Jackie and Tad were literally on one of the biggest stages that I played this last year, because they were speaking to not just parts of this, but they're such a good team. It's really fun to watch you guys. Jackie, congratulations on all the success. Thank you for spending some time in our little corner of the world. And for you guys watching the replay, make sure that you guys follow Jackie and Tad at Flourish Medical, and then follow their podcast too, which I've dropped in the link, so you guys can have that. Susan, you have anything else you want to add? Are you good?
I'm good. I just really appreciate everything, Jackie. Thank you for taking the time.
Cool.
Yes, thank you. I have one final thing.
Totally.
And this is, again, something I've learned, is that if you're feeling the stress, if your referrals are changing, if something feels off all of a sudden and you're striving, many times that is, if you believe, if you're a believer, if you believe in God, like many times what I have found, that's God trying to get my attention. And something is off. So there's a crack in the foundation that needs to be fixed before he'll continue to move the ship forward. And so that would be my one kind of, I think, big thing I would leave you with is, if you're feeling a crack, if you're feeling striving, if something feels off, like something's changed, look up, because he's probably trying to get your attention.
I love that. That's a perfect way to conclude this thing. I love that.
Very timely, Jackie. Thank you.
Good.
That was so good.
All right, guys.
Jackie, love
I'm
you.
here if you have anything. If I can do anything, let me know.
So thank you, Jackie. Thanks, Susan, for being here.
Yep.
And then we'll tell you guys the next expert panel and talk to you guys very soon.
Sounds great.